Good evening from ClipperBlog Live. We've got Fred Katz and myself, Law Murray, hosting. Fred, 106-98. The Clippers go up to Golden State. They take another loss. First of all, we haven't done this in a while, so what's been good, man?
Yeah, how you doing, man? It's been a long time since we CBL'd, right?
It has. It's been a long time, and unfortunately, we're not coming back with a victory here.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think there was any way that the Clippers were winning that game, right?
Oh, I think there was always a possibility that they could play that they could play well, that they could surprise. They certainly surprised Wednesday night against the Portland Trailblazers. They had a 10-point lead at home. Unfortunately, a lot of bad stuff went down, and they dropped this one. This for the Warriors, though, we're talking about a 26-2 record coming into this game, and the Clippers kept it close for most of the first half. Third quarter, they blew it open. So, Fred, looking at this matchup, what do you think was a key factor in Golden State knocking the Clippers off today?
They talked about it a lot during the game on the broadcast. Those small ball lineups with Draymond Green at the 5 just killed them. It's so difficult when, DeAndre Jordan's obviously a good defensive player, but he's not used to guarding a player like Draymond Green, who in the most conventional sense is really a small forward who just happens to play the 4 because of the way that Golden State plays and because he's so strong and able to man guys down low. And when you put him at the 5, and you can't run that lineup, you can't play him with a 5 30 minutes a night or whatever. But you can throw that out there sporadically, and it works so well. The plus-minus numbers on that lineup are crazy when he plays the 5. They're really, really good, and Steve Kerr has trust that. They've been going smaller a lot lately, and they blew him out when they went to that lineup today. They killed him. That's when they pulled away, and I thought that was the big difference.
Now, you mentioned that it's hard to match up with that lineup, but it looked like the Clippers were doing well when Golden State started their traditional starting 5. Now, is there a solution? The Clippers will play this team one more time. Is there a solution for the Clippers to take advantage of Golden State's more conventional lineup, since that's the lineup that they're starting with?
Yeah, 100%. It's called have Blake Griffin and Jamal Crawford. And when you have those guys, then you're going to be in a better position. Also, when you have Blake Griffin on the floor, then Golden State can't feel as comfortable going with Day at the 5, because all of a sudden you got to have Blake pound you inside, and you can have DJ pound you with the pick and roll. So it's so much more difficult to do that when you have the 2 conventional bigs out there, which the Clippers don't have. Big Davey is not scaring anybody at the 4. Hideo Turkoglu is not scaring anybody. Spencer Hawes is not scaring anybody, and he's not really offering spacing or stretch like he was supposed to. Even when he's hitting his shots on the rare nights, he's not offering spacing at all because guys are not guarding him, and he's so hesitant to shoot that people don't think they have to. He pump fakes no one all the time, but they weren't going to win without Crawford and Griffin. They weren't going to beat the best team in the NBA on the road, but that's okay.
Now, we keep bringing it up. Blake Griffin, staph infection about 4 weeks ago. He still hasn't returned to the floor. He did make it back to practice, so he's getting shots up. He's getting himself into some kind of shape. Jamal Crawford, it sounds like he's going to be out a little bit longer, and the Clippers have had to shuffle the rotation even more to compensate for that. Matt Barnes just came back after last Sunday suffering a hamstring injury. What do you expect out of the timetables? How much longer can the Clippers be able to be competitive without 2 of their 3 best scorers?
Yeah, well, Doc just said that Blake is getting closer. He said after the game today, Blake is getting closer to coming back, but there's still no timetable. He also said something along the lines of he thinks that Blake will end up coming back before Crawford, which I don't know if that's good news because it means Griffin will be coming back really soon, or if it's bad news because the Crawford injury is a little more serious than we were first led on to believe. So I have no idea what to make of that information. But yeah, I mean, they can tread water because Chris Paul has been so incredibly good with Griffin out specifically, as has obviously DeAndre Jordan, whose 10 straight games of 15 or more rebounds was snapped tonight when he only went 14 in 31 minutes. But those guys have been so good that they've got so many quality wins without Blake. I mean, they beat who they beat. They've beaten teams like they beat Houston, right? They beat Dallas, they beat Memphis, they beat San Antonio. They've got a lot of really good wins without Blake. So they're obviously capable of beating the upper echelon teams. They're just not going to be able to do it on as consistent of a basis. And the Warriors are a team that you need to be at the top of your game to get them, and they can't do that without Blake Griffin.
No, we talk about top of the game. You know how highlights kind of generate an opinion for people who didn't actually see the game. So when people watch the highlights, they're going to see the filthy Steph Curry move behind the back at least once, step back about 5 feet, and hits a fadeaway three. But in actuality, it didn't look like Steph Curry had, a game up to his standards. And even though Chris Paul looked frustrated, it looked like Chris was getting the better of that matchup. So what did you see from the Chris Paul-Steph Curry matchup, and how much of it, what do you take away from that matchup as far as the course of it, how this game was played?
Well, let me first say that shot that Curry hit, that was one of the craziest shots I've ever seen in my life. That was insane, right?
Oh my goodness, I can't even, as the tweens say.
Did you see Steve Kerr's reaction to it?
I mean, Steve Kerr's reaction was pretty much all of our, if we were on the court, just, pickup game status with somebody who we know is talented, but we know is just kind of YOLOing out there. That's the same thing. It's like, bro, pass the, you know what, man, that was a good shot. That was a good shot. You couldn't say anything. What do you want to say? He couldn't say anything. He sat right back down.
It was crazy. It was an insane shot. But, yeah, Chris Paul defends Steph Curry really well. He defended him really well during that 7-game playoff series last year. The Clippers are really aggressive with how they trap Curry when he goes around pick and rolls. And one of the reasons that Curry is so good, obviously he's an unbelievable shooter and is the best off-the-dribble shooter maybe that basketball's ever seen. But he is so good because he uses screens so well and he navigates around ball screens so amazingly well, finds spots on the floor that are open spots off ball screens, and then he's either able to get his teammates open like that by going the defense over to him when two guys chase him, or he's able to find open shots. And Chris Paul is really good. His best trait as a defender is that he is great at decisively either going over or under a screen, making a decision quickly, and then just not getting caught up on that screen. And so whether he knows he's going over it or under it against Curry, it's usually over it. He's very good at navigating around that screen and then just keeping Curry within like arm's length of him and catching up to him and then just keeping him on his hip. And he's just really good at that with Curry specifically, and it kind of neutralizes what I think is probably Curry's best skill. And when you take that away, and he kind of has a little bit of an off night for Steph. Like when Steph gets hot, no one's going to stop him. But when you put him in that position and Steph is a little bit cold, then you've done about as good of a job as you're going to do.
Now you mentioned Chris Paul's defense against Steph Curry. We opened the show kind of talking about how well that the Clippers defended Damian Lillard on Wednesday night, and you have two All-Stars now in Golden State's backcourt. Steph Curry was somewhat contained. Klay Thompson in the middle of the game was pretty much carrying the load next to Draymond Green. What's the difference between defending Steph Curry effectively and the difference between defending Klay Thompson effectively?
That's a good question. I think with Klay, you obviously need somebody longer on Klay just because he's a bigger guy. He's running off screens more. I think it's more about getting through ball screens versus getting through off-ball screens. I also think guarding Klay Thompson is, well, I was going to say it's more of a team activity. I think guarding Curry is more of a team defense activity because you really need to help when he's just kind of meandering around the court and doing that dribble dance that he loves to do. You need DJ coming over to defend the pick and roll properly when They let him sag back and maybe hope Curry doesn't get to the rim to get those crafty shots, or that he doesn't sag back too far and give up a wide open pull-up three to the best pull-up three-point shooter. So I would say that it's more of a team effort actually with Curry, especially with the way that the Clippers are really aggressive, the way they play the Warriors and those ball screens. So that's probably the bigger difference. And Clay's a very, very good player, and with him, you need somebody who's good at chasing around off ball screens and that kind of stuff. But with Curry, that's the guy you game plan for.
Now, switching gears a little bit, we saw how this game was. It was pretty much over. Warriors had a 20-point lead early in the fourth. However, another allusion to Wednesday night, Clippers had a 10-point lead with about 2:45 left. We all know what happened after that. So the question is, the Warriors had an 11-point lead with about the same amount of time left. No starter was in except for Harrison Barnes on either squad. But it looked like the urgency just wasn't there. I mean, other than Austin Rivers and Sean Livingston going at it, which Sean looked like clearly won the battle, his best game in a while, it just didn't seem like it seemed like an extended garbage time. Do you care to comment on the difference between how this game ended in the last few minutes and maybe why the Clippers didn't take a more aggressive approach to try and steal one?
Yeah, I wondered that myself. I don't know if you can criticize Doc for leaving in the reserve unit for that long, because it was a really big lead. There was a really big deficit. They were down 22, and you might want to get your guys rest. My guess is that he's playing the long-term game, figuring they're probably going to lose this. Like, Greg Popovich would not have brought his starters back in this game. Popovich does this all the time. Once they're down 20 and it's the fourth quarter, it's done. He's prioritizing the rest over all else. And the Clippers play tomorrow night. They got Minnesota on the second night of a back-to-back. And I guess he just wanted to rest his guys, which you can disagree with that, but that's not a bad decision. If it's a decision that Greg Popovich would have made, then you can't necessarily say it's a bad decision.
All right, well, one guy who was in the game late for the Clippers is a guy who was just signed yesterday morning, Nate Robinson, 10-day contract. He's been out of the league since the Boston Celtics waived him following the Denver Nuggets trading him in the middle of January. We know that he had torn his ACL at the end of January 2014. He stayed in shape. Apparently, a few other teams were in discussions to bring him in, but he's with the Clippers for right now. I was personally surprised to see him in the game as early as he got in. We're talking late first quarter, early second quarter, the ninth guy off, or the fourth guy off the bench for the Clippers. What were your impressions of what you saw from him today, and do you feel like he will be a part of this rotation going into the postseason, or is this just a cameo and he'll be gone?
I mean, he looked like he did in Denver today. I mean, he's had by far his worst ever season. He was just not good in Denver at all, whether it was connecting on shots efficiently. I mean, he's 35% from the field and 26 from three, and he's a guy who is a major shooter, and I like Nate Robinson a lot. He's really fun to watch, and when he gets hot, he's really fun. It's like watching like a mini Jamal Crawford or something when he gets hot. But he's not been good at all this year. I didn't hate the signing. I get they need a backup point guard, and it'd be nice if they could have gotten a defensive-minded wing, and they did sign Jordan Hamilton, but there's no one out there. I mean, it's not an option. There's no one out there on the open market who's going to sign and provide them with wing defense. So if you're going to do that, you might as well just go out and get a backup point guard for 10 days and see if it works with Nate. But it's not like he showed anything particularly encouraging today. I mean, we've seen that he's been having a really bad year the whole season. I wasn't surprised he came out there early. Crawford is hurt. If Crawford weren't hurt, I don't know if we would have seen him in the first quarter or in the second quarter. I think it probably wouldn't have been a different rotation.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw from Nate today, really, when you're 5'9", about to be 30 years old. Actually, he is 30. He'll be 31 later this year. A torn ACL is hard for anyone to come back from, but It's especially hard when you rely on your athleticism as much as he does, as much as he did. And we see it with these small guards all the time. Derrick Rose, Rajon Rondo, Lou Williams. It's better to have over a full year removed. Maybe if he's around for a team in the fall, he'll look a little bit more like himself, but at the same time, he's fighting father time and the injury and the fact that he's bounced around the NBA anyway. So, I mean, I'm with you. Nate's someone who I root for, even though I can't stand that slam dunk contest that Andre Iguodala should have won. I'm not holding a grudge on that at all. But we'll see. Right now, he looks like he could be a third point guard, but unless he shows something in the next week, the Clippers may move on and get that extra small forward. Jordan Hamilton's another guy who signed a second 10-day contract, and who knows? The fact is, Doc is probably going to look around for guys, even if it's a scrap market, to see if they can get another wing. He said in practice yesterday that that's probably a priority more than another guard, but injuries take precedent. Really quickly, Fred, we only have 38 days left in the regular season. The Warriors are running away with the Pacific. Was this game pretty much the concession that it's going to be the Warriors leading the division, and the Clippers are just going to have to figure out how they figure out the middle of the conference?
Yeah, I mean, the Clippers are 10 games worse than the Warriors after today, so I think it's safe to say the Warriors are going to take that division pretty handily. The Clips they're only a half a game up on Dallas for the 7th seed still. That 3 through 7 is still really close, separated by 3.5 games between Houston at the 3 and Dallas at the 7. They're only Oklahoma City. Durant comes back. Oklahoma City gets incredibly hot, which is obviously wishful thinking for them, but not incredibly impossible, right? Oklahoma City gets insanely hot. They're only 5 back of the 7 seed. It's possible that Oklahoma City might not even end up being the 8 seed. I wouldn't bet on it at all, but it is possible because they are, with the way Russell Westbrook is playing, once KD comes back, if he can still play anything like KD, then all of a sudden that's arguably the best team in the league. So, and I feel like there's some sort of basketball karma that has to build up. Like the Warriors shouldn't have to play Oklahoma City in the first round.
Oh, absolutely. Why not? Why not? Why shouldn't they play? If you're a contender, then why are you complaining about who you're facing in the first round?
Because it's exhausting. It's just exhausting. It's you can argue that those are the 2 best teams in the NBA, and that is an exhausting. Just mentally, that is an exhausting and spirit-killing way to begin your playoff run. Like you should be able to play a team that is I like Jeff Van Gundy's idea that the team with the best record can pick who they play in the first round. Wow. That would be I love that idea. I think it would be so fun. Do you realize how great like the speculation would be? Like you have 48 hours after the end of the regular season to pick your opponent. Like you realize how great like those 48 hours would be. It's just like everyone debating: should they pick Portland? Should they pick Dallas? Should they pick the Clippers? Should they pick OKC? Like it would be so much fun. I'm all for that idea. I think it'd be great. It'll never happen, but it's such a fun idea.
I am. You know what? First of all, I don't even know if Oklahoma City is going to make the playoffs. Okay, New Orleans. I'm just going to say this. New Orleans, I'm pretty sure, has a tiebreaker on Oklahoma City right now. It's still a race. So I don't even think it's a certainty that Oklahoma City gets in. And I certainly don't think it's a certainty that Kevin Durant is going to be the Kevin Durant that we've all been used to seeing over these last few seasons. But I digress because you know what? There are 38 days left. Let the fun begin. It's March Madness, not just for college basketball. Fred, before we get out of here, we do have to take a fan question. You up for it?
Let's do it.
All right. You know who it is. It's Alfredo, our friend Alfredo Rodriguez, asking, was the signing of Nate Robinson throwing the white flag on small forwards and praying that the guards and power forwards can make up for it? Adding, is Austin Rivers capable of playing the 3, and will we even see Chris Paul and Blake Griffin at the small forward position again? So, multi-layered question, but you know where we're getting at. It's going back to
what is again in that question? It's if like Blake Griffin and Chris Paul have been playing so much 3 in the past. That's something that's ever happened.
Well, you know
Yeah,
what? You
I mean,
don't say too much now, for because you're the one who actually suggested Blake Griffin should play some point guard.
yeah,
Shout out to Anthony Mason, by the way.
I do want Blake to play point forward, but that's different than him playing three. I want point forward. I want him as the backup point guard. That's all I want. It would be great. It would be so much fun. But back to the Nate question. Uh, I guess I don't know if the white flag is the right. There just aren't small forwards out there. Like I can't even think of any. The only two I could even think of were Sean Williams, who signed elsewhere after he was waived by Miami, and Jordan Hamilton, who's already on the Clippers. So and who Doc barely even played tonight until the fourth quarter. So I don't. And you can't criticize Doc for not playing guys on a 10-day contract who has never really been able to contribute anywhere else just because he's there. So I don't know. I mean, if they wanted to sign someone, obviously Crawford is hurt, and they need a backup point guard, and then there's the Doc liking guys who were good in 2009 and played in the Eastern Conference, and preferably a play for him thing. So it all just kind of made sense that it would happen. I think everyone kind of could have predicted this, at least that he'd come in on a 10-day.
Yeah, I'm not even tripping. Barnes is back, and I'm interested to see what happens with Hamilton more than what happens with Robinson at this point. When you're on your second 10-day contract, and Jordan actually had a nice opportunity there as a starter with Matt Barnes straining his hamstring almost right after Hamilton was signed. So, we're talking about a situation where I think Nate has a better opportunity to stay on the roster than Jordan does, but all things will make a lot more sense in the next 10 days. That's how these contracts work. I can't let you get out of here, Fred, without mentioning that tomorrow night the Clippers will be back in action for the second straight Monday night. The Timberwolves are going to be the team on the docket. This game will not be in Minnesota. It will be in L.A., and therefore it will be Ralph Lawler night. And, Fred, you've been pushing for Ralph Lawler to have his microphone retired. So to close us out, give us a little piece of your mind towards where you're at for Ralph Lawler night.
I think it's an incredible idea. I saw that press release and I was very excited about it. It's awesome. I mean, Ralph is the most important Clipper ever, probably, which is until about 2010. Ralph was the most important Clipper ever. He'd been around the team since the mid '80s, and he's the most recognizable guy. He's almost the face of the franchise for so many years when they had nobody else. He's the guy who every fan loves and anyone can relate to. He's great. And I think it would be cool if a nice symbolic gesture if the first number that they retired, since they have no retired numbers, would be Ralph's mic. And I don't know if you can do that while he's still broadcasting, but I just get the feeling that he's never going to retire. So, and he should be there when his mic is actually retired. I think it would be great if they put it for Ralph Lawler. But that being said, Ralph Lawler night is, you're splitting hairs. That's awesome. I'm excited for it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Golden State Warriors take it. They're up 2-1 in the season series against the Clippers. They win 106-98 for Fred Katz. I'm Law Murray. We don't know when ClipperBlog Live will be back because, as you can tell, this is the first time we've done it in 6 weeks. So we hope you enjoyed this one. Monday night, Clippers back in action at home, Minnesota Timberwolves. Enjoy the rest of the first time of Daylight Savings Time. Good night, everybody.